Hey Jawsy, how's it going mate? Sorry to interrupt your brekkie of toast and Vegemite, but you can eat while I talk. I just received a message from M at headquarters, and sorry to say buddy, you've been reactivated back onto duties again. Just to fill you in on mission details, it's codenamed Operation Cleopatra's Needle. So here's some background info on Cleopatra's Needle. Cleopatra's Needle is a giant Egyptian obelisk, and it was a gift to the USA. The project was entirely funded by William H. Vanderbilt, the son of the railroad tycoon Cornelius Vanderbilt. The obelisk was erected in 1881 in Central Park, New York. And by the way, that's where you're going. So when you finish chomping on that piece of toast, come over here and have a look at my laptop. There's something I want you to check out. So here we are, Jaws, on the most reliable source of info out there, Wikipedia, and it has everything about the Cleopatra's Needle. So we're just going to scroll down quickly because this is all minor details, and we want to just focus in on this bottom section called Buried Objects, because there is something buried underneath the Cleopatra's Needle we want you to retrieve. So as you can see there, Jaws, a time capsule was buried underneath the obelisk containing all these wonderful artifacts, but we're not interested in that stuff. What we're more interested is in the small box that was buried there. Intel has reason to believe the small box contains both the lost Vanderbilt diamonds and a diamond called the Ramses Eye, which was stolen out of the Egyptian tomb over 2 centuries ago. So the target is the Ramses Eye. Your job is to retrieve that, forget about the other diamonds, get the Ramses Eye and bring it straight back to Australia. But before we send you off, we'll give you a bit of a makeover and change your identity because you're pretty well known and you'll be recognised. Good day there, Jaws, and welcome back to Australia. Or should I say, Pierre Perfecto, International Dog of Mystery. What's going on there, mate? Your eyes look a little bit bleary. You haven't been hanging out with those babes again, I hope. Anyway, you retrieved the diamond and completed your end of the mission. Now I need to complete my end of the mission. So my mission is to create a diamond replica of the original Ramses Eye, have the original Ramses Eye sent back to its rightful owners to the Museum of Cairo with the rest of the artifacts of Ramses II, and then have the replica sent back to the USA and have it put back underneath the Cleopatra's Needle, and we'll get Jaws to finish off that side of the mission later on. To recreate this diamond replica, I'm using GemCut Studio, mapping out all the right angles and the right indexes, With this particular design, it's not going to be very easy because you need to get all the pavilion facets perfectly aligned for the crown to work out. The most difficult part about this design will be creating two crescent moons that oppose each other, but they have to meet specific meet points on the table. So for those people who enjoy faceting and you've been trying to facet eye designs with little success, particularly when it comes to getting crown facets aligned, I'll be talking about various tips and hints to help you become a better faceter at creating these type of eye designs. And there are plenty of these designs around that are similar, but they need a special approach when it comes to faceting and getting the meet points right. Here's a computer animated GIF coming up of what the gem looks like once completed. As seen in many of my other videos, I need to glue a brass stopstick onto the rough gem material. This particular material is called cubic zirconia and it makes an excellent diamond simulant. Just a little tip with these synthetic gems or any diamond simulants like cubic zirconia, make sure you rough up the surface area with 100 grit topper lap, particularly on these larger gems. When it comes to cubic zirconia and many synthetic gems, when they're being cut with a trim saw, you'll feel the surface of the gem and it will feel a little bit waxy, and you tend not to get a very good attachment on that type of surface. So if you rough it up, you're going to get a lot better attachment with the dopstick and glue. So at the moment I'm using my 100 grit topper lap, and this is an unusual design where most designs you start cutting the pavilion facets rather than the girdle facets. In this case I start with cutting the girdle facet outline. So I'm using 100 grit topper lap, and this is going to be fairly rough because I just want to chew through a bit of material, and in order to do that I need to use a fairly aggressive lap. So as you can see coming up, you'll notice that I've cut the girdle outline using the 100 grit topper lap. And if you notice carefully, you'll notice there's quite a bit of chipping on the four facets that create the points. Now later on you'll get rid of that by using different topper laps. So what I've done now, I've changed the angle on my protractor and I start cutting all the pavilion facets. Still using the 100 grit topper lap, and I'll quickly just shoot through all those facets just to get a basic shape of what the pavilion and the girdle facets will look like. It's not going to look too clean, there's going to be little chips here and there, but the main aim is just to get rid of material, because if you were to use a 600 grit lap or 800 grit, God forbid you use a 1200 grit, you could be there for days. With the finer the lap, the longer it takes to lose material. And you don't want to be in a position where it's going to take you all day just to cut the foundation facets of your gem. In this scene you can see by using the 100 grit topper lap that the girdle outline and the pavilion are all starting to take shape. So what you'll see in the next scene is that I've refaceted the girdle outline using a 600 grit topper lap, and then went over the same facets again using an 800 grit diamond topper lap. So when it comes to faceting the pavilion, I'll be using the same sequence of diamond topper laps from a 600 to an 800, making sure that the meet points on the pavilion meet with the girdle outline facets. So next step now, you'll see that I'm doing what is called the pre-polish, and this is a really important stage when you're faceting synthetic gems, particularly these hard gems like cubic zirconia or synthetic corundum, sapphire or synthetic spinel. You need to make sure you get a really good pre-polish, because if you don't, you'll get what's known as orange peeling, and when you get onto the final polish you'll get all these little speckles that you just can't get rid of. And here you can see that the pre-polish is now complete. But I would like to talk about something more important for those people who are trying to learn how to cut eye designs. Most people with these designs really struggle to create a perfect gem in terms of great meet points, particularly on the crown, is because they haven't cut the four facets on the girdle outline that form the points to the right depth. And that goes with the four facets on the pavilion that create the points. So those pavilion facets that meet to the points of the girdle outline have been cut in a regular way. One might be higher than the other, and it doesn't seem that way because you look at it and you've created a meet point, but in reality, if they are not dead level from end to end, you will not be able to create a really nice eye design. And you'll notice the minute you do the rotation and then you go to cut the table, things will not work out. So here you can see that I've done the secondary transfer and I've used my alignment block. Really, this is just a case of gluing another dop stick onto the other side of the gem and then removing the original dop stick by heat, and then placing the gem with the dop stick back into my quill, and then I'll start faceting the crown. Now, I've explained this a lot in other videos, so if you don't understand what a secondary transfer is, maybe you can just have a look at some of my other videos and you'll get to see what that process is all about. So while I'm cutting the first step on the crown, I just want to explain a little bit more on how you can improve faceting eye designs. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that on most machines, it doesn't matter what make or model you own, there will be a low point where you're cutting down to depth a little bit further on a certain index than all the other indexes. Most people don't even realize that one of the indexes is cutting marginally lower than the rest, because when you're cutting, say, designs like a standard round brilliant or Portuguese cut, it has that many facets forming the pavilion and the girdle outline that just cutting a little bit deeper doesn't have a huge bearing on those type of designs. But when you're cutting a design like this, where you've got opposing end facets that have to be perfectly level, then you'll find that if you've cut two of the facets that form a point a little bit lower than the opposing facets, when you go to cut the crown, the table will not align. That's how difficult these gems are. You've got to get those end facets that form the corners or the points perfectly cut down to the same depth. Anyway, that's enough about how to cut a perfect eye design. Let's have a look at the crown now, and you can see that all the facets on the crown are starting to take shape and they're forming nice meet points. For those people who wish to facet this particular design and you've gone on the internet and you've started googling Ramsay's eye, but you just can't find any information about this particular gem or the design schedule, well, I've got a little bit of a secret to tell you. I actually created this particular design myself. So let's move on to one of the essential stages of faceting your own imitation diamond or cubic zirconia, because one day you may be requested also to go on a mission like ours. So if you want to do a pre-polish, I always find that the pre-polish is something you have to get right on cubic zirconia or many synthetic gems, because as I mentioned earlier, you get this orange peel effect. So I found that a copper lap with 1 drop of sewing machine oil just rubbed into it, and then just adding a bit of 8000 grit diamond grit onto the lap, and turn on your motor and just smear it in to the lap. So my machine only has 2 speeds. As it's pulley driven, it'll have a low to medium speed, which I always use for pre-polishing or doing a final polish, as you can see, or it has a higher speed where it'll do, your fast grinding of the material. So the great thing about having 2 speeds and 2 constants is that I'm in control of everything else, not the machine. So I'm not relying on different variable speeds every time I have to move a dial. So what you see me doing now, as I'm ready to pre-polish a facet, I'm lightly just touching the surface of the facet I want to pre-polish, and the grease on the lap will reveal exactly where it's touching. And you can see that the grease is on the entire facet. Now sometimes the grease might only be in the top part of the facet or the bottom part or left or right of that facet, so you will need to make minor adjustments on your height or on your cheater. Now I'm only going to swipe maybe about 8 times fairly lightly, and you're going to see exactly what the pre-polish does, and you can see where all the grease residue is. So I'll wipe that off, and now you'll get a close-up exactly where that facet has been pre-polished. So if you have a look at the facet I've just pre-polished as it zooms in, you notice that it's cut a little bit more into the girdle outline and it's squeezed out the facet above it. So with this particular design that I came up with, there are quite a few facets on the design that I need to hit the meet point within 1/100th of a degree. So my faceting machine doesn't even have the ability on the protractor to set it at 1/10th or 1/100th of a degree, yet I can still cut all these facets in with tolerances of 1/100th of a degree and still hit the mark. And that's simply done by feel and pressure, knowing how much I need to pre-polish and knowing how much on the final polish I need to cut in a facet. So don't stress over these high tolerances, don't get obsessed and bogged down by such designs. So just go with the flow, don't get frustrated, and enjoy the entire process of connecting those little facets to make meet points. Now at the moment I'm doing the final polish, and I have to admit this is another part of the whole process I really enjoy because I'm getting close to the end of completing this gem, but I still have little facets that still need to meet up, and I've got two little crescent moons just underneath the table and I need to line those up, and that'll be done within this final polish. And to me I find that quite enjoyable and relaxing, and it's a bit like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You're connecting all the little pieces together, and in this case it's just connecting all the little facets together so they meet up and form a really nice design. So next step is to finally cut the table, because I've done a final polish on all the other crown facets. So at the moment I'm just using an 800 grit worn diamond topper lap, and then I'll do a pre-polish with 8000 diamond grit on copper lap, and then I'll do a final polish with tin with a 50,000 grit diamond compound. So here we have a final stage of the completion of the gem where the table is cut, pre-polished and finally polished, which means we're getting closer to the end of another video. And don't forget about the final reveal where you get to see this gem both outside in the sun and on the rotator indoors. So this video is all about having a little bit of fun and creating a storyline within the process of cutting a gem. I know it's an unusual approach to making videos about gemstones, but I often think that if I enjoy what I'm doing and having a great time, it would really encourage others to want to get involved in this hobby. And talking about someone who loves to have fun also, and that is Pierre Perfecto. And Perfecto shall be returning back to the USA with the replica Ramsay's eye in hand, or should I say in paw, and he will be returning it back underneath the Cleopatra's Needle in Central Gardens, New York, and the original diamond will be returned back to the rightful owners at the Cairo Museum. So thank you for watching everybody, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and it's bye for now.